What's up, everybody? Welcome back to BritNic's journal. Sorry I haven't posted in a while. Life has been hectic. I'm really excited though because we're getting chicken so we can have fresh eggs. So I was gonna say something else, but I just had a brain fart. Oh, excuse my hair. It is getting more humid by the day down here in the south in Georgia because of all the freaking rain we have had. Ugh. So anyways, so we're picking back up where we left off last time. So we covered chapter 4, which was titled Grow With Them as They Change. So just a recap on that, from the griever's perspective. I'm not sure who I am now. You might think I'm the same person I've always been, but I know that that isn't true. I'm different because loss has changed me. I had a unique relationship with my loved one. Others' grief isn't the same as mine. I grieve differently because my relationship was one of a kind. Because my relationship was one of a kind, my grief is unique too. Grief is a lonely road, and I'm trying to accept it. But that doesn't mean I want to be alone. Yeah, I need time to myself, but I still like to be connected to the ones who care about me and to the ones that I care about. No one can stop grief or the bus from hitting me over and over again. My grief, my bus, my road. I don't know who I'll be when I finally stand up again, or who I'm becoming. I don't know if you'll still like or love me, and even I don't know if I'll like or love the new person I'm becoming. My world is upside down. I am upside down. Let's see if I can get the page turned here. Here we go. I have a hole in my heart where my loved one used to be. I don't know what life will be like, and I hope to experience healing even with the hole in my heart. I have to rediscover or redefine who I am, especially since nothing is the same. I can't stay the same. Not knowing who I will become is really scary, so please be patient with me. I'm grieving. So today we're going to cover chapter 5, which is titled Share Their Lonliness. This title's a little bit deceiving, just because me anyways, from my perspective, I don't want my friends and other family to be as lonely as I feel. Like, I don't want you to share that feeling. Oh, let me get my CD started. Let's see. I'm playing my dad's CD again today. It's peaceful. Okay. So, like I said, I don't want other people to experience how lonely that I can feel sometimes. I just want to know that I have people there for me, like the ones that say, I'm here for you, or I'm just a phone call away, whatever. Please mean that. Like, I don't know. So, as always, I'm going to start with like a personal experience type thing, and then we'll actually go into chapter 5 and I'll read that. So, I think any griever experience this is, when word gets out that your loved one has passed away. People start calling, messaging, bringing food, sending cards, whatever people do that, to support the grievers at that time. But they do that until everything's over. Like, they attend the visitation, the funeral, and then when it's all over, it's poof. Everybody's gone. Like, what the heck, where'd you go? During your most vulnerable state of grief with loss, you want comfort. A bee just flew in our house. Whether you know you need comfort or not, you still want it. You want to know you can count on people. The ones who said, I'm here for you, or call me if you need anything, etc. They're the ones who vanish. Like, I know I got upwards of probably 30, 40 messages, calls, texts, cards in the mail, whatever, when my dad passed. But like, my friends that I still have now in my life, that have been in my life almost 10 years or plus, obviously, they're the ones that are still here, but it's still nice to know that the ones that say they're going to be there are still there for you. But those people have moved on with their lives. But the first thing they ask when they see you in public is, oh, how are you doing with things? We all know what things mean. It's like, well, if you would have continually kept in touch like you said you would, you'd know, wouldn't you? I feel that some grievers are more prone to hiding and suppressing their grief because they feel like they will be a burden to others if they express any of their grieving emotions. I know I'm that way. Even now, 2.5 years later, I'm slowly getting better at talking about my dad and or expressing my emotions about him around others. But I have always been the type of person to hold in my feelings and emotions, but I'm really bad about wearing them on my face, so people are going to know something's wrong with me regardless. So it's definitely a work in progress. There are days when grief is so heavy and so this goes along with part of the loneliness thing. So there are some days when grief is so heavy that I cancel plans. I don't do any household chores. I stay home and I sulk. Because why would I want to be a crying, hot, emotional mess in the middle of Walmart? I have actually been that crying, hot, emotional mess in the middle of Walmart. People stare or ask if you're okay, which makes things worse for me. Kind of like when you've already crying and somebody hugs you and you just even more, or both. So they stare and they ask if you're okay, and it's just like, it's embarrassing. Like, okay, you just gonna continue to stare at me while I cry, or so I'd rather hide at home until that heaviness passes. Now there are some days when I have no choice and I have to go out. So as I've discussed in previous chapters, my grief turns into anger if I can't helpfully get it out. So the whole time I'm out, I'm pissed. And I end up taking that out on people, taking out the anger on people who don't deserve it. Yeah, therapy's kind of helping me with that. So still a work in progress. So grief is not only about the loss of just one person. Grief comes with many losses. Friends move, you lose your normalcy. I mean, the list can go on and on. I know in my mom's case, when my dad passed, there were several people in her life that were there for her for a time, but then poof, the poof happened to her. People stopped talking and visiting. She felt she had lost everybody. She felt really, really alone. And one of my dad's best friends moved away, and I know he had talked with him about it previously before my dad passed, and others just stopped reaching out. But even though these people are doing what's best for them, the griever feels abandoned and left completely alone. We need and count on people more than we realize when we go through tragedy, whether it be a death or I just had another brain fart. Today is not my day. So we realize we need people then let me read that again. Okay. We need and count on people more than we realize when we go through tragedy. And when they're no longer there, the loneliness can be crippling. So grievers are a mess, plain and simple. We don't want to be fixed. We don't want to be told that we'll get over it. Please. That's the most false statement I've ever heard. And I especially don't want advice from people who have never lost someone. There's no possible way they know our pain. They can't because they haven't experienced it. So I'm not saying that in a mean way, but it's hard for me as a griever to take advice from someone who has not lost a parent or who's not lost anybody of great significance in their life. It's just hard for me to process how you can be giving me advice on something you've never been through. Kind of like giving somebody instructions on something to cook when they've never cooked it themselves. It just makes no sense. So it's not so much that we want our supporters to be lonely too. We just want them to understand that we, the grievers, can be lonely even while surrounded by people. Our heart isn't where everyone else's is. Like, we can be at a concert surrounded by thousands of people and we can still feel lonely just because that piece of our heart is gone. It's missing and we still have that hole. So be there when you say you'll be there. Step up to the plate you said you would serve. Be the support you offered. You can't cure our loneliness, but you can sit with us while we try to find the level ground our hearts so desperately want to be on, but we haven't found yet. So having y'all's support, like I said, doesn't cure the loneliness, but it eases it. So, all right, so now we're going to go into chapter 5. So it starts with a quote with, "People say they know what I'm going through." No, they don't. They can't. Grief is lonely. No one knows exactly how the griever feels. It was their relationship and their loss, theirs alone. You can care for and support them by respecting their grief and sharing their loneliness. So this first part, as always, is from the grieving heart, so from me to you. I feel alone. They said they would be there for me. They looked me in the eye and sent the message that I could count on them. At least that's what I heard. But they haven't called, visited, emailed, or attempted to make contact. It's like they just vanished. If I happen to run into them, a look goes across their face that resembles fear. Is there something wrong with me? When did I become scary? I wonder what they're thinking. What do they think of me? Am I that uncomfortable to be around? I don't want to be a downer. They probably have enough to tackle without me and my roller coaster emotions. Maybe something is wrong with me. There is nothing wrong with you if you're grieving, and please absorb that into your brain. There is nothing wrong with you. Grief is normal. It is natural. And it's a process. It's going to take a while. So never think that there's something wrong with you. And you're going to have roller coaster emotions. You're going to do this all the time. It's normal. It's nothing bad, nothing wrong with you. Sometimes I'm scared to go out. Bursts of grief slam me at unpredictable times, and I find myself weeping in the strangest places, like Walmart. I feel like an embarrassment to myself and others. Some have pulled away. Others try to fix me. Many give advice. Everybody wants me to feel better and move on. Y'all, if you have somebody in your life that is grieving, please do not rush them through their process. It messes with their healing, like their own personal healing. And it's not, we're never going to move on. Those feelings will forever be there with us. The loneliness, the need and the want for that person to be back in our life will never go away. So there's no moving on from that. So don't try to fix your grieving friend or family member with that, because it's not fixable. The hole in my heart is aching. It's not just losing my loved one, but all the other losses that have come as a result. Nothing is the same. I've lost my routine and a sense of normalcy. Expectations, hopes, and dreams have disappeared. I sense my relationships changing. And they do. You as the griever, though, need to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Smart. I guess I can use that one. In your decisions on who to keep in your life after you've lost somebody. You need people who will be there for you no matter what. Even through your change, the same people will stay with you. Grief has changed me, and it's affecting everything. Sometimes I feel like a leper, like my grief is some kind of disease. I hadn't counted on the pain of loneliness too. I'm hurting. I'm a mess. I'm not who I was. I don't know who I am or who I will become. I don't know what normal is anymore. Please be patient with me. I'm grieving. So this next section is to the supporters of the grievers, titled Grief is Lonely. Recently, I sent out a one-question survey. I asked people to share with me what they struggled with most in their grief process. Out of roughly 500 responses, over 80% said loneliness. Loneliness is a state of mind and heart, and not necessarily a life circumstance. In other words, it's possible to be lonely while surrounded by people. People can feel alone in a crowd, a small group, a conversation, a family, or even a marriage. Loneliness strikes when we feel misunderstood, judged, or belittled. It creeps in when we sense our hearts are at a different place from those around us. Loss shakes us. The mind spins while the heart frantically searches for solid ground in the midst of what feels like a free fall. A family can experience a loss together, yet all of them still feel alone. Part of this is natural because the loss is different for each person. And that's true because, example, I lost my dad. My mom lost her husband. My uncle lost a brother. And my grandparents lost a son. And, other family members, they lost a cousin, or others lost, my dad was an uncle. The grief affects everybody differently. My mom's parents lost a son-in-law, so every person's grief, even though we're the same family, every person's grief is completely different, because even though one person passed, many people were lost, even though one person is gone, just because everybody had a different relationship with him. No one fully understands another's thoughts or emotions. Like, I don't understand my mom's thoughts and emotions because I haven't lost a husband. I just lost my dad. So I can empathize with other people who have lost their father. Even though your grief is different from mine, I still know what you're going through, just because I know what it feels like to lose a dad. And so grief is lonely. Because life is about relationships and we're all relational creatures, we don't typically deal well with the pain of separation. Loneliness is not one of our goals in life. Definitely wasn't one of my goals to lose my dad so young. I was 26 and he passed away at 52. Obviously my goal as having a dad was for him to be here till he was like in his 80s or 90s, see his grandchildren grow up, see him and my mom grow old together. But that's part of the grieving process. You learn to accept that it can't be one of your goals anymore. And that hurts a lot. loneliness just sucks. I was really, really close with my dad, so when he passed, it's just like my world didn't just turn upside down, it crumbled into a million and one pieces. So the next section is titled Respect Their Grief. Even if your grieving relative or friend is an extrovert, they are most likely struggling with the pain of loneliness. Your job isn't to make this better or eliminate the sense of loneliness. You can't. But you can be aware of their pain and support them while they're feeling lonely. You can sit with them in the middle of their road. We talked about in previous chapters, the bus, the road, and sitting with us. Here are a few things to remember. Don't try to pull them out of this, because you can't. Respect their grief and know that pain is a natural part of healing. As you can and are able, enter their valley with them. Yes, you can share their loneliness, even if you can't feel it. This can have more impact than you can imagine. What does it mean to be with them and share their loneliness? Often it comes down to what to say or not to say, what to do or not to do. And we'll discuss this in chapter 6. And it ends with the quote, "I know this is a lonely road. Can I sit with you for a while?" And the last two quotes of the chapter is, I don't even know how to pronounce this. So, this name here, I don't know. This name, in the midst of a world that moves, I alone am still. So like I said earlier, it's like moving in slow motion in the fast lane, but sometimes you feel like you are on pause and everything else is just, it's like a whirlwind around you. And the next one is from William Shakespeare. Everyone can master a grief, but he that has it. So if you haven't been through grief, you're a master, right? But when you're going through it, you have no freaking clue what you're doing. You don't know what's coming next. You don't know what emotion's going to hit you. You don't know what's going to trigger you. So I don't know how else to reiterate that, but so again, this is the book I'm using. It's called Please Be Patient, I'm Grieving, How to Care for and Support the Grieving Heart. It's by Gary Rowe. So this is the book that I'm using to go through. I really do hope y'all are enjoying these videos. I'm continually growing and changing in my journey in grief, continuing going to therapy. So I will put together a video for chapter 6, and I will see you guys next time.